There is a place you know better than anywhere else. It is not a physical location. It is a state, a position, a particular quality of standing that you have occupied your entire life without ever being given a name for it. It is the place between the conversation that has ended and the one that hasn't begun, between the person someone was before they came to you and the person they became after, between the world most people inhabit without question and the world you have always been able to sense underneath it, between what is dying and what has not yet been born. You have spent your life at a threshold, and you have spent a very long time believing that the threshold was a waiting room, that you were simply between things, between belonging, between arriving, between becoming whoever you were supposed to finally become. You were not waiting. You were working. You just didn't have the mythological frame to understand what the work actually was. Most INFJ content will tell you that you feel things deeply, that you see patterns others miss, that you need solitude to recharge. All of this is true. None of it is enough, because what it misses is the structural fact of your existence, the way you are not simply a sensitive person navigating a world that wasn't built for you. You are something more specific than that. You are someone who has been placed constitutionally, psychologically, perhaps mythologically, at the edge of things, at the border, at the exact point where one world meets another and neither fully claims you. And this position is not a consolation prize for failing to belong. It is a function, a role, an ancient one. The question is whether you understand the role you are actually in, because if you are still treating the threshold as a waiting room, you are spending your gifts on waiting rather than on what the threshold actually requires of you. In the last video in this series, we mapped a hierarchy of mythological archetypes for the Sigma INFJ. We moved back through mythological time from Athena, the goddess of civilized wisdom, through the Sibyl, through Hecate, to Mnemosyne, and we established that the further back you go, the more accurately the archetype describes what the Sigma INFJ actually carries. Today, we go deep on one of those archetypes, the one that sits at the most structurally accurate position in the hierarchy for what the Sigma INFJ actually experiences day to day, Hecate. I want to map 5 distinct threshold expressions, 5 ways the Hecate archetype manifests in the lived experience of the Sigma INFJ. Think of these as the classification within the classification, because not every INFJ who carries the Hecate inheritance expresses it at the same level of integration, and knowing which expression is currently running your life tells you exactly what the next stage of your work is. Before the classification, the mythology. Because Hecate is consistently misrepresented, and the misrepresentation matters. In popular culture, Hecate has been flattened into a witch goddess, dark, mysterious, vaguely threatening, associated with the occult, with the moon, with magic in its most theatrical sense. This is not wrong exactly, but it is a reduction, the kind of reduction that happens to pre-Olympian forces when later civilizations find them inconvenient and need to make them smaller. Here is what Hecate actually was in the oldest layers of the Greek tradition. She was a titaness, pre-Olympian. She existed before Zeus organized the cosmos into its familiar hierarchy. When the Olympians took power and the new gods claimed dominion over sky, sea, and earth, Hecate was not dethroned. She was not absorbed, rebranded, or married off to make her manageable. She was kept exactly as she was, granted an extraordinary privilege, the right to move freely between all 3 realms, the world of the living, the underworld, and the space in between. The Greeks called this being a psychopomp, a guide of souls, someone who could cross the thresholds that ordinary beings, mortal or divine, could not cross, someone whose function was specifically to exist at the border. She carried torches, not to illuminate the ordinary world, the sun handled that, to see in the dark, to light the passage between one state of being and another. She presided over crossroads, over childbirth and death, over all the moments in human life when one thing ended, and another had not yet arrived, and she held knowledge, the kind of knowledge that cannot be institutionalized. The understanding of fate, of the underworld, of the forces the Olympian order considered dangerous precisely because they could not be controlled. Zeus kept her because he understood something important. What she represented could not be removed from the world without the world breaking. You already know what that feels like. To carry something that the structures around you cannot quite contain or control, to have a kind of knowing that the official order doesn't know what to do with, to be kept, consulted, needed, valued in crisis, without ever being fully integrated into the world that needs you. That is Hecate's position. It has always been your position too. Here is the classification. 5 ways the Hecate archetype manifests in the Sigma INFJ experience, arranged by level of integration. This is the Hecate inheritance at its least integrated. The Sigma INFJ, who knows they are at the border of things but has not yet understood that the border is a position, not a failure, they experience the threshold as limbo, as being between jobs, between relationships, between identities, between belonging. They carry the torches but cannot yet see what they are illuminating. The primary experience here is waiting. The primary emotion is a particular quality of loneliness with no obvious external cause, as the cause is structural rather than situational. You cannot solve structural loneliness with better social arrangements. If this is where you are, the work is recognition. Understanding that you are not between things. You are at the threshold. That is a location, not a transit. This is the INFJ who recognizes that people come to them at moments of transition, crisis, ending and beginning, who has begun to understand their threshold function, but has not yet made peace with the asymmetry this creates. They give extraordinary guidance at threshold moments. They hold others through passages that would be terrifying without a torch, and then they watch those people cross over into a new life, a new self, a new chapter, while they remain at the border. This expression carries grief. The reluctant guide experiences something that appears to be loneliness but is, in fact, a specific kind of structural displacement. They are always helping others arrive somewhere they are not permitted to follow. The work at this level is accepting the asymmetry without bitterness. The torchbearer does not cross with the one they guide. That is not abandonment. It is the function. This is Hecate's more dangerous gift, and it manifests in the Sigma INFJ as the capacity to hold truths that others find intolerable, the shadow material, the things that cannot be said in polite company, in therapeutic language, in the optimistic register that most self-development content insists upon. The dark knowledge keeper knows that some wounds do not heal into gifts, that some initiations do not produce wisdom, only damage, that some people choose the shadow permanently. They can sit in the presence of this without flinching, without offering false comfort, without needing to resolve the discomfort into a more palatable shape. This is not nihilism. It is the opposite. It is the refusal to make the dark tolerable by lying about what it is. Hecate's torches illuminate precisely because she does not pretend the darkness is not dark. The shadow expression of this level is where it becomes dangerous. The INFJ who has access to dark knowledge without integration can mistake the capacity to hold darkness for permission to live there. The threshold keeper is not the same as the underworld dweller. You are not meant to stay below. You are meant to carry the torch through and return. This is Hecate at the level of real integration. The Sigma INFJ who has made peace with the threshold, not as a position imposed upon them, but as a home they have consciously chosen, who no longer experiences the between space as waiting or displacement, but as the specific and irreplaceable territory that is genuinely theirs. The integrated liminal does not try to belong fully to either world. They have stopped performing, belonging for the world of ordinary social life, and they have stopped disappearing entirely into the interior. They exist with fluency in both directions. They can walk into the underworld, into the shadow, the crisis, the passage and return, reliably without losing themselves in the descent. This is not a permanent state. Integration is not arrival, but this expression has a quality the earlier ones do not, a kind of settledness in the unsettled position, a knowledge that the crossroads is not a problem to be solved, but a place from which to see in every direction. This is the rarest expression and the most fully realized. The Sigma INFJ who does not merely carry the torch but begins to help others understand what the torch is for, who takes the dark knowledge they have accumulated at the threshold and begins to translate it, not to make it comfortable, not to remove its edges, but to make it navigable for those who have to cross what they have already crossed. This is the point at which the Hecate inheritance becomes legacy. Not in the sense of fame or recognition. Hecate was never celebrated as the Olympians were. But in the older sense, the sense of passing the torch forward, of ensuring that what you learned at the threshold does not die with you. Most INFJs who reach this expression do so quietly. They do not announce it. It is visible in the quality of their presence at moments of crossing, in the fact that people who have passed through something terrible often describe feeling that one person's light made the passage possible. The honest question is not which expression sounds most appealing. It is which one you are actually living. The stranded threshold keeper is not lesser than the torch lighter. They are earlier. The threshold is the same. The difference lies in how consciously and willingly you occupy it. What moves you through these expressions is not time. It is not healing in the conventional sense. It is a specific willingness to stop resisting the position, to stop treating the threshold as evidence of failure, to stop waiting for permission from the ordinary world to inhabit the strange territory that is actually yours. The Olympians kept Hecate because she was irreplaceable, not comfortable, not easy, not integrated into the civic order, irreplaceable. You are not here to become more comfortable in a world that cannot quite hold what you carry. You are here to learn to carry it with intention, not by accident, with a torch rather than in the dark. The threshold is not a waiting room. It never was. It is the most important location in any landscape, the place where everything changes, and you were not placed there by mistake. Hecate did not choose the crossroads because it was pleasant. She chose it, or was chosen for it, because she was the only force in the mythological record who could stand there without being destroyed by the contradiction of it. That is your inheritance, not the contradiction resolved, not the threshold finally crossed into permanent belonging, the capacity to stand at the crossing point, torches lit, and see in every direction at once. This is not a consolation prize for failing to belong to the ordinary world. It is a function, a rare one. And the world, even the world that doesn't know how to name what you are, keeps finding you at the moments when the torch matters most. Know what you are. Know what you are for. Carry the torch with intention. This video is part of the Sigma INFJ Archetype Hierarchy series. The full series is linked in the description and pinned in the comments. Each video builds on the last, so if you have not yet watched the Archetype Hierarchy video that started this, that is the place to begin. Before you go, I want to know where you sit. Of the 5 threshold expressions, which one is currently running your life? The stranded threshold keeper, the reluctant guide, the dark knowledge keeper, the integrated liminal, or the torch lighter? Leave it in the comments, not as a performance, as an honest marker of where you actually are right now. These comments become a record of the threshold, and that matters more than you might think. The next video in this series goes deeper into the Sibyl, the one who held what empires needed and refused to cheapen it. If the Hecate video named your structural position, the Sibyl video names your relationship with the knowledge you carry and what it costs when the world refuses to receive it. Until next time, find your power, know your myth.